Volkswagen factory workers in Tennessee reject union. In the latest defeat for organized labor in the South, workers at a Volkswagen plant in Tennessee rejected an effort to form a union this week. Of the roughly 1,600 workers who voted, 833 opposed the unionization effort, according to results released late Friday. The United Our employees have spoken, the plant's chief executive, Frank Fisher, said in a statement. We look forward to. Labor leaders have long focused on the South, which they consider important to securing victories for workers around the country. But despite the possibility that a business or its competitors might move production to sparsely unionized southern states can put pressure on workers elsewhere to accept lower pay and make other concessions. Wages for Volkswagen production workers in Chattanooga start at $15.50 per hour, which will increase to $16 in July. The plant's the loss highlighted the difficulty of organizing private sector workers in a political environment that is overtly hostile to labor unions, even as workers have won gains through collective action. Tennessee's Mr. Lee visited the plant and about his objections. Wilma Liebman, a chairwoman of the National Labor Relations Board under President Barack Obama, said she had never heard of a governor's appearing directly before workers to lobby them to vote against union representation. Mr. Lee's office, State Representative Robin Smith, a Republican whose district includes the plant, had said a decision to unionize could threaten tens of millions of dollars in future state incentives for the company. It's much easier to defend incentives, the use of tax dollars, when they're going into an investment that follows our state's philosophy, Ms. Smith said in an interview. Pressure from politicians has been a recurring feature of organizing campaigns in the South. Opposition from the UAW, also its 2014 defeat at the Volkswagen plant, on the aggressive opposition of local politicians. Bob Corker, Volkswagen, also changed its stand toward the union after that campaign. In 2014, this time around, Volkswagen was also officially neutral, but its posture was much more resistant. The company's It's definitely different, said Matt Sexton, a Volkswagen worker who was also involved in the organizing effort this year. There's not any new. The publication Labor notes of a recent all-hands meeting in which Mr. Fisher, the chief executive, appeared to blame a union for the demise of a Volkswagen plant in Pennsylvania in the 1980s. Mr. Fisher recalled that production at the Pennsylvania plant had started in the first half of 1978 and that by October of that year, there was a strike. Volkswagen managed. In 2015, a small group of maintenance employees at the Chattanooga plant voted to unionize, but Volkswagen refused to bargain with them, leading to litigation. When the UAW filed for an election with the National Labor Relations Board this year, the company objected on the grounds that the case involving that smaller union was still pending, forcing the union to resubmit its petition for a vote after it withdrew the earlier case. Workers and organizers also took a more conventional approach this time around, emphasizing the benefits of a union on issues like safety and scheduling. In 2014, there was a strong focus on how unionization was a necessary legal precondition for implementing VW's co-determination management system, said Daniel Cornfield, a sociologist who studies labor at Vanderbilt University in Nashville. In 2019, Mr. Sexton said he and other workers were becoming increasingly upset because production teams were understaffed, leading to greater stress on workers and more injuries. He also said management often scheduled overtime shortly before the end of a shift, in violation of Volkswagen's own policies. Mr. Fisher, who was the plant's chief executive until 2014 and returned this spring, said Indiana the recording that he was focused on correcting some of these issues, such as overtime practices. The company said that its injury rates were well below industry averages, and that workers who were evaluated at the on-site medical clinic were allowed go back to work only when they were medically cleared. It said it had reduced. Carrie Menendez, a worker who was active in the effort to oppose the union, acknowledged that morale had deteriorated somewhat in the last few years. But she said that, "I am not a person who believes the grass is always greener on the other side," Ms. Menendez said. Sheila McNeil contributed research.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.